And today we have joining us with some perspective on the life of Charlie Kirk and where our country is right now, just in terms of the political environment that we're in and the violence that we're enduring. We have Daniel Hernandez, longtime state representative here in Arizona, and Matt Salmon, a longtime congressman representing the East Valley. So, guys, we can't wait to get your perspective, stories, memories of Charlie Kirk, and where we go from here to try to just create a better political life for everybody. One other just quick note, normally we do what we call the mystery cam as we go into the break here. We're going to wait and give you the mystery cam at 10:43 this morning, Celeste.
My guess was going to be Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, it could be that one. We'll be right back. Okay, and we welcome you back here at a quarter after. We've done the introductions, Celeste,
Yes,
of our
we have.
two esteemed guests.
Yes.
By the way, you guys were both on our TV program this morning on Fox 10. So I think first we'll just kind of throw it open to stories or memories of Charlie Kirk and interactions you may have had with him. And then we'll get into where we stand now and how do we possibly try to fix it, guys.
Well, my strongest memory of Charlie, I've attended several of the Turning Point rallies and different things, but I actually attended a night that he hosted at Dream City Church, which he did quite frequently.
Yes.
And the thing that I really respected about him was that he was able to state his opinions, and a lot of times they were really controversial. I mean, they weren't milquetoast type opinions, but he was able to do it without anger. He was very civil about the way he presented his ideas. And the other thing, you know, being at the Dream City Church, he always brought in his faith, which really was cool to me. I loved it.
I think that you bring up an important point too, is that he also listened to the other person,
Yes.
share their perspective on
He didn't
things.
shut him down, and a lot of times when in his audience, when people would boo somebody that he was debating with, he would stop them from doing
you
it.
say, hey, let
Yeah.
them finish. Let
Yeah.
them finish. Danielle, you've met him as well.
Yeah, obviously very different sides of the ideological spectrum.
Right.
And I didn't agree with Charlie on very many things, if any. But I think one of the things that's really important is having dialogue. And I think that's one of the things that we don't often do enough. I served for 6 years in the Arizona State House, and actual debates where we were talking about policy and it didn't devolve into personal attacks were rare because it's always easier and people are always looking for that soundbite, that social media clip to go viral.
Yeah.
And I think that's really been disruptive to our political discourse, but just policymaking in general, because where before I would watch colleagues, debate and have real questions, it was, how am I going to get the other side? How am I going to get them to say something dumb so that then I can go and say, look at these idiots on social media? And I think that's become really destructive.
Yeah.
And I think the only way we really start moving away from that is folks like Representative Salmon and myself, who are former elected, saying we need to cut it out.
And I think in terms of making any progress in this type of arena, I think you both are on to a really good start. This organization that you both are a part of is called what?
It's called the Democracy Defense Project, and really it's focused on helping people to learn that we should have civil discourse. We can disagree without being so disagreeable, and we need to have confidence in our electoral process. And, Daniel and I, if we were on the floor arguing a particular bill, probably 9 times out of 10, we would disagree. But the fact is, I respect him for the fact that he believes how he does, and I don't ascribe his motives as evil or, that he loves America any less than I do. He just has a different idea on how to get there than I do, and that's okay. And we can have knockdown, drag out debates on the floor, and then afterwards be friends.
Hey, by the way, you
that's
guys,
what's going to go viral. That knockdown debate,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, we do have, Thomas is like, as you can see, we're getting all these comments here as
Yes.
folks are watching you guys really around the country now on YouTube. And Thomas says, this is an organization I'd like to get involved with. So can you give us the information? How do people get involved with you?
Yeah, so if they go to Democracy Defense Project, you can follow us on all social media, but also if they go to the website, democracydefenseproject.org. But I think one of the important things that we did over the last year was really trying to give more information about how the electoral process works here in Arizona. Because I think one of the things that we saw was a lot of discontent and a lot of misinformation because people weren't happy with previous results. And now we're starting to see, we just did some polling, that now it's Democrats that are unhappy with some of the results and questioning some of these, outcomes because they're not happy with the outcomes. And I think regardless of whether your side wins or loses, we have to be honest about the integrity and the way that Arizona's elections are run, which is some of the best elections in the country.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Daniel, because the Aviator in the chat, he says, I'm still shocked by this assassination. When did we, and I'd like to get your thoughts on both of this, when did we as a society take the wrong turn and accept violence to the point of murder as an answer to dissent?
I think it doesn't happen all at once. I think that over time people have become desensitized, and all too often the political discourse not only challenges the idea that comes from somebody else, but their nature. You are an evil person. You don't love America like I love America. And that's just garbage. That kind of discourse has no place. You can discuss an idea and say how crappy you think that idea is and say it till your heart's content. But to ascribe motives to somebody when you don't know what's going on in their heart, that's wrong. And I think that more than anything else, we need to understand we are Americans first. And if we don't get control of this, Benjamin Franklin, when he walked out after they decided on our Constitution, he said, it's a republic if you can keep it. Oh. And if we are not careful, we're going to lose it.
Now, Daniel, you were there. For people who maybe have more recently moved to Arizona, you were there during the day of the shooting at the Congress on Your Corner event. How has that kind of informed your perspective from that moment on to where we are today?
Yeah. Political violence is something that I've been involved with and have seen up first since I was 20 years old when I was an intern for Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, and I provided first aid for the first 9 minutes after she was shot in the head. So this is something that unfortunately has been a reality for me since I was 20 years old. When I became an elected official, I was a school board member, and my promise to my constituents was, act as if kids were watching, because oftentimes they are. So every time I try and hold myself to this, and I'm not always perfect, I act and do things as if kids were watching, because what are the examples that we're setting to these kids? Then when I got to the legislature, it was, I can disagree, but if I'm going to disagree, it's not just about destroying the other side. And I think that's the problem that we've created in politics. Everything is a zero-sum game. It's I win, you lose, and you are evil if you lose, and you're the bad person. And I think we can have disagreements, but I think if we don't have enough elected officials, we started seeing this yesterday. President Trump came out and said, we're going to go after these liberal groups. We have no idea what the ideology was of the person that did this.
That's very true.
We don't have any of the information. And yet we were already seeing politicians jumping on and saying, these evil people on the other side. That may be the case. We don't know. It could just be somebody who's mentally ill. And we won't know all the details for a while. So politicians and elected officials need to say, before I speak, let me take a pause. Let me talk about what is actually happening. What do we actually know, as opposed to they're evil, we're going to go after those guys.
Yeah.
'Cause I think that's the kind of rhetoric that got us into this place.
I'd like to get both of your thoughts on this. He's been having these campus events for many years, more than a decade or so.
That's how he made his name.
Right.
Yeah.
He and posting them on YouTube or something like that.
Right.
He went to community college for like a year. He dumped it. He's like, I'm not learning anything here. I'm going to be self-taught. And he was a vigorous reader and self-taught. And so over the years, his crowds have grown. And we've seen them grow, and there were 3,000 people, I think is what they estimate, here at the university where this took place yesterday. If he were to have, let's say, 10 people there, do you think this would have happened? Or is it the fact that he really has, ushered in and been able to help President Trump with the young vote, and his popularity with college students has really grown over the years? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a really, really good question, and I think if he only had 10 people there, nobody would have been interested. And the fact that you're effective at what you do, I go back to somebody that was assassinated when I was a little boy, Martin Luther King. Never had really elected office, but same kind of thing. Went out and advocated something that he believed. I mean, his I Have a Dream speech is one of the greatest speeches that was ever given. Would he have been killed had he not been so effective with his message at galvanizing the hearts and the minds of people?
Yeah.
I don't think so, and I think the same is the case here.
A lot of people are joining in the chat, and so we appreciate all your comments. We're reading them, that's for sure. Guys, I did want to let you know, as well as everybody in the audience, our poll question this morning is a very simple one. Do you have hope for an end to political violence? 26%, by the way, we run this, you can grab that QR code, join the conversation, or go directly to YouTube. 26% are saying, yes, you have to have hope no matter how bad it seems today. 40% are saying, I don't. In fact, I worry it could get even worse. And 34% are saying it will never be wiped out completely, but working on bipartisan solutions, which is the very thing you guys are advocating, would certainly help. Grab that QR code or go onto YouTube. Celeste, how's that one looking?
So we've got about 286 votes on YouTube in just the last hour. Numbers are pretty similar to what we're seeing on the poll that, Ron, you just showed. Yes, you have to have hope no matter how bad it is today. 25% of you voted in that direction. No, I don't. In fact, I worry it could even get worse. 53% say that. It will never end, but working on bipartisan solutions would help. 22%. If I could ask Daniel one more question, Ron, do we have a quick second? I think that because we live in this social media age, and you're on social media, you're younger, I think, than most of us, respectively, at the table. That's where young kids are seeing this. And you made that comment that we do things as if young kids are watching, but now that's what they're watching, right? Yeah. How do we get the discourse to really kind of focus in on that and say, how do we change what our kids are seeing? How do we change that? Will that ever change?
Well, I think the first thing that I commented yesterday was people needed to stop sharing the photos and the videos of him getting shot to death. Yeah. Because I think this is one of the things that I, as someone who's a gun violence survivor and was talking to teachers who I used to serve on the Sunnyside board with, saying, my kids were in class and they opened up a shooting and they saw somebody get murdered. That's the first thing they're saying. So I think we need to, in the absence of any other regulation, say, do I need to be sharing this
Yeah, I only asked that question because, and Ron and I have chatted about this in the last day. I learned about it because
Oh, yeah.
my daughter, who's a college student, sent it to our family group chat,
Yep.
and then my son, who's in high school, was sent on Snapchat the more graphic, photo.
video.
Yeah.
And when I picked it up from school, picked him up yesterday, he said it was a really bad day, Mom. And all day he was shaken by the fact that he had seen that,
Yeah.
things that our kids can't unsee.
That's a really good point. Okay, guys, we appreciate your time here today. We are up against a break. One more time, Matt, tell us how people can participate in your organization.
Again, go to democracydefenseproject.org, and we'd love to have your involvement. In fact, it's only going to happen. Change is only going to really happen if we all participate. I think, we hear that politicians should be speaking out, and that's a given. People from both sides of the aisle should be speaking out against all this crap. But finally, I would like to say that everybody has a hand in this. When somebody says something that's offensive like that, stand up.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.